We often hear that in life, sincerity is the key to every good relationship. But if we look deep into ourselves, have we truly lived and treated others with sincerity? Sincerity is not something that is difficult to find. It exists within each of us, in every action, every word, and in the way we perceive the world around us. Sincerity is not about always saying sweet words or doing great things. It is simplicity, the way we give our full attention to others, the way we truly listen and understand what they need without asking for anything in return. A sincere heart always shines from the smallest things. A loving look, a warm handshake, or simply being there when others need it. This is sincerity, a connection without words, but deeply penetrates the soul of each person. Sincerity is not just about giving, but also about being open to receiving. In this life, we can easily see that truly lasting relationships are not based on benefits or selfishness. Rather, they are relationships built on understanding, respect, and sincerity. If you're truly sincere, others will feel it too. And when sincerity is spread, it will create a magical circle of cause and effect. We give love, and we receive love. It is the natural law of the universe, always operating this way. However, sincerity is not always easy. Sometimes we encounter challenges. People may not understand or appreciate the sincerity we have for them. But that is not a reason for us to give up. Sincerity is not something we expect to be rewarded immediately, but a long-term journey where we always persevere and maintain this virtue. In today's turbulent world, when trust between people is easily shaken, sincerity becomes more precious than ever. Think about the people who truly bring joy and peace to us in life. Are they the ones who always sparkle, or are they the ones who are true to themselves, always cherishing and protecting relationships with all their sincerity? Therefore, every day, we need to remind ourselves to live truthfully with ourselves and with everyone. Sincerity is an indispensable gift in life. It may not always bring us immediate return, but it will build deep and lasting relationships. And then, one day, good things will come back to us. When you live with sincerity, you are not only building good relationships, but also contributing to creating a better world. Don't forget that every sincere action, no matter how small, can change the world around you. Sincerity is not just a value, but a way of life, the way we exist and contribute to those around us. Sincerity is the foundation of all relationships, and when we live with sincerity, the world will become gentler, more peaceful. Start with yourself, and then you will see that a sincere heart can change everything. Once upon a time, there was a poor farmer who was always honest and hardworking. He often helped his neighbors, even though he sometimes did not have enough to eat. One day, when he saved an injured bird, the bird thanked him by leading him to a treasure in the deep forest. The farmer became rich, but still maintained a simple, sincere lifestyle. His kindness continued to spread, turning the small village into a loving community. When you treat others sincerely, not only will you be responded to with sincerity, but you will also contribute to building a more beautiful world. The ancients used to say, "God will reward those who are diligent." This saying is not only encouraging, but also contains a profound lesson about the value of labor and patience in life. Hard work and diligence not only help us build material wealth, but also cultivate invaluable spiritual qualities such as perseverance, patience, and a grateful heart. In today's society, where everything often changes rapidly, diligence and perseverance are still important factors that help us overcome difficulties, turn challenges into opportunities, and achieve sustainable success. Perseverance is the ability that can help us move forward, no matter how many obstacles we face, while gratitude is the key to keeping our minds at peace, not being swept away by greed or complacency. the story of a young entrepreneur, is a living example of perseverance and the spirit of diligence. He started his career with an ambitious startup idea, but soon encountered a huge failure. Instead of giving up and wallowing in disappointment, he decided to get up, learn from his mistakes, and start over from scratch. He did not rush to seek quick profits, but learned to save and reinvest every penny earned from his part-time job to nurture his passion for entrepreneurship. Although he did not have much initial capital, he always worked hard, even accepted small jobs, endured hardships to sustain his life, and invested in his business. Gradually, thanks to his diligence and determination to not give up, he built a successful business. His business not only brought in profits, but also created value for society. He became a role model for other young people, inspiring them to never give up in the face of difficulties. He taught them that nothing is easy in life, but if you persevere and keep learning, you will eventually achieve what you want. Diligence not only helps us achieve material wealth, but also serves as the basis for developing valuable spiritual qualities. While diligence helps us expand opportunities, saving and knowing how to invest properly is the key to protecting our assets, making them sustainable over time. A diligent person not only accumulates money, but also learns how to manage time, develop personal abilities, and maintain a progressive spirit. Saving, in this context, is not only about saving money, but also about maintaining health, protecting valuable relationships, and cherishing opportunities in life. In addition, the above story also shows that diligence does not mean working hastily or thoughtlessly. Diligence must be coupled with intelligence in management, creativity in work, and a long-term strategy to ensure that wealth not only increases, but can also be maintained and developed in the long term. Tolerance is not simply forgiveness, but also the process of transforming negative emotions, such as hatred, anger, and resentment, into understanding, patience, and compassion. It is a deep understanding that each person has his or her own reasons and circumstances that lead to his or her actions. When we are tolerant, we not only help ourselves to be free from negative emotions, but also create a peaceful, friendly, and loving environment for those around us. In Buddhist thought, tolerance is an extremely important virtue, considered part of the Bodhisattva path. By practicing tolerance, we are truly acting in the spirit of Buddha, helping to transform our own suffering and that of others. Forgiveness is not simply an act of forgiveness, but a state of mind, a method of freeing oneself from resentment and anger. Many of us have had painful experiences, being hurt by the actions or words of others. Sometimes, these feelings can linger and become a burden on our minds. Intolerance can lead to feelings of resentment, anger, and long-term suffering, causing us to lose our peace of mind. When we practice tolerance, we learn to let go of those negative emotions, not allowing them to control our actions and thoughts. Tolerance does not mean that we have to forget the pain or allow others to continue to harm us, but rather that we can recognize and process those hurts in a wiser and more forgiving way. We do not live in resentment, but instead learn to free ourselves from the past to walk on the path of freedom. There is a famous story in Buddhism about a woman named Kisa Gotami, a woman who lost her child and came to the Buddha to ask him to heal her pain. The Buddha asked her to bring a seed from a family that had never had a death. After searching the village, she could not find such a family and realized that life and death are part of the cycle of life. It was then that she understood that loss is inevitable and that it is important to learn to face and overcome it instead of trying to avoid it. The lesson from this story is that when we understand the impermanence of life, forgiveness becomes easier because we realize that everyone has their own struggles and pain. When we forgive, we not only forgive others, but we also forgive ourselves. Tolerance allows us to live in freedom, not bound by the past or pain that cannot be changed. Tolerance is an indispensable virtue in all relationships, from family, friends, to colleagues and communities. One of the reasons why many relationships fail is because of a lack of tolerance. When we cannot forgive others for their mistakes, the relationship will quickly become tense and easily broken. Tolerance, on the contrary, is the factor that helps the relationship become strong and lasting. In a family relationship, sometimes we have to face conflicts about the views or actions of our relatives. Differences in lifestyle, attitude, and habits can cause misunderstandings or conflicts. However, if we lack tolerance and cannot look at the problem with tolerance, it will be difficult for us to maintain a healthy relationship. A young couple almost got divorced because of disagreements in their views on raising children. The wife believed that they had to be strict in educating their children, while the husband believed in a gentle and understanding approach. One day, the husband decided to share his feelings and listen to his wife sincerely. After the conversation, they realized that they both wanted the best for their children, but each expressed it differently. They decided to learn to be tolerant, patient, and share their views instead of letting differences tear the relationship apart. Tolerance is not only about forgiveness, but also about finding a solution to conflicts, understanding and respecting each other's differences to build a happy and lasting relationship. Most of human suffering comes from clinging to things that are not truly ours. When we learn to let go, life becomes easier. In Buddhism, one of the most profound teachings is the understanding of the impermanent nature of life. Everything changes, and nothing in this world is permanent. Therefore, when we cling to things that are not truly ours, such as possessions, fame, or even relationships, we cannot avoid suffering. This is because clinging creates ego, craving, and constant anxiety about losing the things we consider important. There was a wealthy merchant, but he was always afraid of losing his wealth. One day, all his wealth was swept away in a flood. He was so heartbroken that he wanted to commit suicide. A monk came to console him. "You have not lost anything. Those things were never yours forever." Hearing this, he became enlightened and began to live more simply, finding joy in helping others. Love sincerely, but do not let your happiness depend too much on other people or material things. When talking about attachment, we can easily see that most of human suffering comes from our inability to accept change and impermanence. Everyone has their own desires, ambitions, and aspirations, and most of them cannot be achieved forever. We may live in a beautiful house, own valuable items, or maintain close relationships. However, all of these things do not belong to us, absolutely. We are only borrowing them for a certain period of time, and then they will have to change or leave us. A person may spend his whole life accumulating wealth, but when he gets old, he may realize that these things cannot help him find true peace or happiness. The same goes for relationships. A friendship or love can bring joy for a long time, but if we cling to those people, not allowing them to change or leave, suffering will arise when we have to face separation. In my opinion, learning to let go is one of the most important lessons in life. In fact, we are often obsessed with things beyond our control. We cling to things we want, desire, but do not realize that this clinging is actually the cause of fatigue and anxiety. When we learn to let go, it is not about giving up everything, but learning to not let those things dominate us, not letting them take hold of our minds and emotions. Letting go does not mean living a life without responsibilities or ambitions. It is understanding that things beyond our control cannot determine our happiness. We can work hard to achieve our goals, but when those goals don't come true, we need to learn to accept them and not let ourselves get caught up in negative emotions. Practicing letting go helps us become more flexible, able to adapt to changes without feeling threatened or insecure. I remember a time when I experienced a major loss in an important relationship. Initially, I was very hurt, clinging to the past and memories of that person. However, over time, I realized that holding on to the past only kept me from moving forward. Learning to let go doesn't mean I forget the person or the memories, but rather, I learned to accept that everything changes, and that is natural. I began to live more fully in the present, and I felt much lighter. Letting go has allowed me to find joy in new things, new opportunities, and new relationships. Forgiveness, as I mentioned in previous thoughts, is not only about forgiving others, but also about forgiving ourselves. To be able to forgive, we need to learn to let go of anger and resentment. Similarly, when we let go, it is not that we give up on responsibilities or the people around us, but it is learning to look at things with a relaxed and unburdened mind. Letting go helps us to maintain peace of mind and not let external things take away our inner peace. In Buddhist life, letting go is not an easy thing. Buddhism teaches that clinging is the main cause of suffering. This can also be applied to many situations in daily life. We may feel anxious when we do not control the outcome of an event or a situation, but when we learn to let go, we will feel freer and more at peace. We should not worry about things we cannot control, but focus on things we can change. Learning to let go is truly an art in life. It is not only a strategy to reduce suffering, but also a way to live a lighter life. When we cling to things that do not belong to us, we will always live in a state of anxiety and dissatisfaction. But when we learn to let go, we not only free ourselves from burdens, but also create space to welcome new things, opportunities, and joys in life. It is letting go of things that do not really belong to us that helps us live more freely, happily, and leisurely. In Buddhism, the concept of no self, anatta, is one of the three fundamental characteristics of existence, along with impermanence, anicca, and suffering, dukkha. Anatta can be simply understood as not having a fixed self, not having a permanent self, and not having a clear distinction between oneself and the world around. However, this does not mean that we do not have ourselves or do not have separate characteristics, personalities, and existences. Anatta, in my opinion, is the realization that we ourselves are not separate from the world, and that everything is connected in a vast network. A group of people were clearing a forest to build a house, but an old man stopped them. He said, "Each tree is a part of me. If you destroy it, you will also destroy yourself." Thanks to his words, the forest was preserved and became a home for many animals. In Buddhist teachings, anatta is not a concept that denies the existence of an individual. In fact, Buddhism does not deny that each person has a self, a separate individual in society. However, Buddhism points out that the self is not an independent entity, but a synthesis of constantly changing factors. For example, we can perceive ourselves through our thoughts, emotions, and actions, but these are not me in a permanent way. Changes in life, environmental and social influences all affect us. Therefore, anatta does not mean losing the self or not having a self. Instead, it is the understanding that the self is part of the universe, not separate from what is around. Everything changes and nothing is fixed. We are not an isolated island, but part of a complex and interconnected system where our every action, thought, and emotion has an impact on others and the environment. In my view, selflessness is not a loss of individuality, but a deep awareness of the interconnectedness and interdependence of all things. In modern society, many people tend to live in a way that is overly self-affirming, ego-affirming, and sometimes forget that we cannot exist alone without relationships with others, the environment, and society. Selflessness helps me realize that everything is connected. My thoughts and actions not only affect me, but also those around me. In daily life, practicing selflessness can help reduce stress and anxiety because we are not always trying to protect our ego or fight against external difficulties. When we are not bound by ego protection, we can easily integrate and accept everything that happens around us instead of resisting or trying to control. An example of applying egolessness in life is in relationships. When I do not place too much importance on the ego in a relationship, I can understand and empathize with others more deeply. For example, when a friend does not do what I want, instead of feeling angry or hurt, I will try to see the situation from their perspective and realize that each person has their own thoughts and feelings, which helps me not to cling too much to personal expectations or disappointments. Besides, egolessness also helps me feel at peace in moments of change in life. When I realize that everything is impermanent, that nothing is permanent, I can live more lightly without being caught up in worries about what I will lose. For example, when a job or an opportunity doesn't work out as expected, instead of feeling defeated and miserable, I can see it as just part of the process and learn from the failure to become stronger. Selflessness also helps me understand more about being in harmony with everything around me. I don't need to be the center of everything, and I don't need to control everything to feel secure or successful. When I learn to accept change and imperfection, I feel freer because I'm not bound by expectations of myself or external situations. This helps me find true peace and happiness in life because I'm no longer driven by feelings of lack or fear. Selflessness is not a loss of self, but a deep understanding that the self is not an independent entity, separate from everything else. When we realize this, we will live in greater harmony with everything around us, no longer feeling the need to protect our ego or try to control everything. Selflessness helps us understand that we are part of the larger universe, and when we live in harmony with the changes and ups and downs of life, we will feel more peaceful and free. This is one of the keys to living a happy and peaceful life.